Luxury means different things to different people. Everyone has their own definition and aesthetic of what luxury means to them. To some people, it's designer clothes and bags, fancy cars and jewelry. To others, it's staying in a five-star hotel and having business class flights. But let's take a step back and think about what many of those things actually represent. To the ultra wealthy, in addition to the very high end experiences that money can buy, the two real luxuries that money buys when you boil it down are time and space. Having money means not having to spend time cleaning your house when someone else can do it for you, being able to spend your time in a beautiful, calm, and chic environment, having the freedom to have a slow morning when you choose to and not feeling rushed to be somewhere. Having money buys you space. Think about some of the most chic rooms and hotels that you've been in. Something that most of them have in common is having a lot of sense of space. Having a business class flight is the luxury of having space to stretch out your legs, as well as the service. I was invited once to join a table of friends at a really expensive nightclub in Ibiza called High, and I was genuinely curious why anyone would spend this much money on a table to be so far away from the dance floor and the stage, so I asked them. The answer? I don't want anyone to step on my feet. And ultimately, having that sense of owning your own time and space gives you a sense of freedom. So for me, living luxuriously is about creating a lifestyle where I don't feel rushed, I feel organized and calm, and I'm in a space that feels elevated as well as incorporating elevated moments throughout my day. I started this channel to help people with money and personal finance, but what is the ultimate aim of having money? For me, it is having this sense of time, freedom, calm, and space, and you don't always need money to get those things. So today, I will be taking you through the 9 things that I incorporate into my life on a regular basis that make me feel like I'm living luxuriously without spending any money. I personally believe there's no better way to give you a feeling of calm in the space that you spend the most time in, your home, than decluttering. I recently moved house for the first time in over 15 years, and when I did, I made it my mission to not take anything with me to my new life that I hadn't used in over 2 years, that I had multiples of, or that just didn't suit the new me and the new life that I wanted my new home to represent. For a few weeks, my neighbors must have absolutely loved me because on the daily, I was putting out boxes and boxes of my old belongings on the sidewalk for people to take. I don't know about you, but in London, where I live, we kind of have our own way of giving away perfectly good things that we don't need by leaving them out on the sidewalk in front of our houses. They will be gone within hours, if not minutes, and it just makes you feel good knowing that someone who likes or needs it more than you has given your old things a new home. Decluttering your home also has the unexpected side effect of making you feel calmer and more organized. So it has a mental, emotional benefit as well as a physical one of creating more space for yourself with less things to organize or clean. I think in modern times, we definitely suffer from having too much stuff. What if I need this one day? Oh, I use this once a year, so I'm just going to keep it. Living luxuriously to me means having a calm, organized space free of clutter that after a long day of work, I can come back to and it doesn't add stress to my day. It's also a great way to set your intention for the way that you want to live your life. Something else that made a huge difference when I did up my new home, and this ties in perfectly with the decluttering, is the colors that I chose to have around me, which you can see in my home right now. I decided to go with a neutral palette throughout my home, so soft creams, whites, beige, rather than filling every room with bold colors. My friends joke that my house is 50 shades of beige. Color psychology tells us that our brains respond differently depending on what colors are around us. Bright, saturated colors like red or orange are stimulating and raise alertness, whereas soft, neutral tones are associated with a lower visual stimulation and a calmer, more settled feeling in a space. Think about the most expensive hotels and spas that you've been to. They are almost never painted a bright orange. They are nearly always soft and neutral because that is what makes a space feel elevated rather than chaotic. You don't need to repaint your whole house to get this benefit. You can get the same effect just by swapping out your bedding, cushions, a throw, or even the mugs on your counter. By swapping out anything that's bold or clashing for something soft and neutral, your home is going to almost instantly feel calmer to be in. I'm going to be doing a separate video on low budget items and experiences I've bought to give me luxury experiences in my day-to-day life, where I'm going to talk a little bit more about my home and what I've put in it. So do subscribe to my channel to see that. And while you're down there, please like this video if you're enjoying it so far. It's really motivational to help me keep going creating these. Anyway, back to my list. One of the biggest factors in how much time we have to live our lives is our health. As the old saying goes, health is wealth. And if you don't agree, think about the last time you were really, really sick. Unable to get out of bed sick, with nothing you could do except wait for whatever it was to pass. What good would having lots of money have been to you in that particular moment? Probably very little. One of the biggest things that the ultra wealthy spend their money on is anything that is going to slow down aging, from expensive skincare to spa days, organic foods, and even expensive treatments like cryotherapy or vitamin drips. But what if I told you that two of the most proven anti-aging treatments could cost you nothing at all? Would you actually do them? I bet you know about or have done both of these and didn't even realize the health benefits that it's given to you. The first one of these is walking. A recent study concluded that walking decreases the risk or severity of various health outcomes such as cardiovascular and cerebrovascular diseases, type 2 diabetes, dementia, and also improves your mental well-being, sleep, and longevity. To get these benefits, all that you need to do is walk briskly for 30 minutes a day. You may have heard of or seen the Netflix documentary about blue zones. These are 5 areas in the world that have the highest concentration of people over 100 years old. When they studied these zones, they found that the one thing that all 5 of them had in common was their high levels of physical activity. One of the most common reasons I hear all the time for people not exercising is they don't have the time or the energy. Well, I'll tell you what else will give you no time or energy, and that is spending your days sick in bed. Walking is one of the best things that you can do to clear your mind, exercise, and get all of the amazing anti-aging benefits it provides, and it's completely free. The other completely free activity that has one of the biggest effects on not only your health and your mind, but your entire life is meditation. Now, hear me out. I know most people start trying to meditate and they abandon it thinking that they need to sit still for 30 minutes to an hour, not think about anything, and it just feels too difficult, especially when you have a huge to-do list. It can feel impossible to quiet your mind. I totally get it. As a fellow woman who does it all, runs multiple businesses, and has huge to-do lists, I know that carving out time for meditating can feel impossible, or like your mind never stops, so it's just a waste of your time. But research has shown that people who regularly meditate have a brain aged 6 years younger than other people their age. Meditation slows down the aging process because it reduces stress. Think about someone that you know who's gone through a really stressful time in their life, or even about yourself. You notice wrinkles forming, you look tired, you can literally see the stress on your face. Well, the good news is that studies have shown that meditating for just 12 to 15 minutes a day is enough to boost brain health and slow down the aging process. As someone who gets up and starts rushing about my day, I know just as well as anyone that I'm not about to stop for 15 minutes to be able to take deep breaths. So this is something that I do as soon as I get up in the morning. Before I even switch on my phone, as soon as I wake up, I open my curtains, sit on the edge of my bed, and take 15 minutes to just breathe, either with my eyes closed or looking out at the sky. Think about how quickly that time would be taken up if the first thing you do is switch on your phone and start scrolling. I bet you would use up even more than 15 minutes doing that. By starting away this day instead, you start with a clean slate, a calm mind, and you start reaping those anti-aging benefits before your day's even started. While I'm on the subject of mornings, one of my other completely free non-negotiables is having a slow, intentional morning to start my day, rather than rushing straight into emails or to-do lists. After having 10 to 15 minutes of breathing, I will do another 10 to 15 minutes of yoga, and I don't pay a penny for it. I just go onto YouTube. My favorite yoga instructors on YouTube are Yoga with Cassandra and Yoga with Nancy. They've got hundreds of free videos for every level, even if you're a complete beginner, whether you've got 10 minutes or whether you've got an hour. You don't need to be some rich housewife with all the time in the world to go to fancy yoga classes. You can get just as much benefit from doing this in your own living room before anyone else in the house is even awake. And that feeling of not being rushed first thing in the morning is one of the most luxurious things that you can do, and it's completely free. Which brings me on to my next point, because if there is one thing that can undo all the calm you just created with your slow morning in seconds, It is picking up your phone and scrolling first thing in the morning as soon as you wake up. This is where a digital detox comes in, and I know that phrase can sound intense, like you need to disappear off to a no phones retreat, but that's not what research actually shows works best. A study by Georgetown University tracked nearly 500 people who cut back on their phone use for 2 weeks, and they saw a 91% improvement, at least in one area of their well being, attention, or mental health, just from reducing their screen time, not giving it up completely. So you really don't need to go cold turkey. Something as simple as leaving your phone in another room while you eat dinner, turning off the notifications after 8 p.m., or doing your first hour in the morning phone free, like I do, that can make a huge difference to how calm and present you feel. A habit that I've just recently got into is when I go to bed, instead of taking my phone and where I'm tempted to scroll, I will leave it charging in a completely different room so that I don't have access to it. And it means that the last thing that I'm seeing before I go to sleep is not scrolling on shopping or social media. And it honestly makes me sleep so much better as well. This next one is less about what you do and more about what you stop doing. And that is saying no more often. I used to say yes to almost everything out of the guilt or the FOMO, fear of missing out. And what that actually did was leave me with no time or energy for myself and the things that really mattered to me. Research on boundary setting backs this up. A study by the Journal of Occupational Health and Psychology found that people who set clear boundaries around their time experience lower stress and higher satisfaction overall. Saying no isn't rude, it's protecting the two real luxuries that we talked about at the start of this video, your time and your space. A practical way to start is to give yourself permission to never answer right in the moment. Next time someone texts you to ask you to do something that doesn't excite you, say, let me check and come back to you. And that buys you some time to pause and decide if this is something that you really want to do, or are you just defaulting to saying yes because it feels easier. I used to say yes to people all the time because I wanted them to like me, even if it was something that I didn't really want to do or I didn't know if I could actually fit into my week. And then when I actually had to end up canceling or not showing up to something I've been invited to, it would have the opposite effect of making people like me, because if I'd just been honest in the first place, we both could have saved ourselves any time and disappointment. Another completely free way that I try to live luxuriously is by spending time in nature. And this one actually has science behind exactly how much you need. University of Michigan researchers found that 20 to 30 minutes a day outside in a green space, whether that is a walk in the park or sitting in your garden, is enough to significantly lower your cortisol, which is your main stress hormone. You don't need an expensive countryside escape for this. Living in London, I'm not exactly surrounded by rolling hills and mountains, but I make a point of taking advantage of all the beautiful parks we have to meet friends or go for my daily walks. It is such a small change, but it makes such a big difference to how I feel for the rest of the day. Something that I try and do at least once a month, and this genuinely feels like one of the most luxurious things I do without spending any money, is visiting free galleries and museums. London is so incredible for this. So many of our biggest galleries don't charge for entry at all, like the National Portrait Gallery, which is incredible. Researchers at the University of Pennsylvania reviewed over 100 studies on museums and found that just one single visit can measurably lower your stress. Researchers found that adults who visit museums regularly have a noticeably lower risk of depression than those who never go. So if you're craving that feeling of culture and expanding your mind the way traveling somewhere new might give you, but you don't have the time or the money for a trip abroad right now, put in a free gallery visit in your calendar this month and see how luxurious it makes you feel. One of the best ways that I found to reclaim my health and therefore my time and a little bit of control over the aging process is by making healthier food choices. I've always been somewhat interested in eating healthily, and though I definitely don't do this 100% of the time, I definitely notice a difference in my energy levels and my ability to focus and get on with my day when I'm not eating tons of sugar and processed foods. Being intentional with your food choices doesn't have to mean an expensive meal plan or fancy supplements. It can just mean choosing whole, real foods over anything that's overly processed, and choose them more often. I always follow the 80-20 rule, which is 80% following a really good healthy diet and 20% giving myself a little bit of leeway to have some treats. Having a simple meal that you've made from scratch at home is always going to leave you feeling more energized than a meal deal that you bought at Tesco that you eat at your desk. And batch cooking a pot of something big on a Sunday means that you've got something nourishing to go to on your busiest days without reaching for your phone to order a takeaway. Definitely been guilty of that. It can also just mean choosing healthier snacks that are not going to cause you to slump in the afternoon, like fruits and nuts instead of cakes and biscuits. Healthy eating doesn't have to be expensive, it's just about making intentional choices. And it has such an amazing domino effect on the rest of your life, from your skin to your energy to how often you get sick. And that brings me to my final point, which I think ties every single one of these together. And it's a shift in mindset more than anything else. And it is choosing to feel rich rather than look rich. It is so easy in the world of social media today to feel pressured to look wealthy, have the bags, the logos, the newest everything. But so much of that is just a performance for other people. It's actually the whole premise behind one of the most famous finance books ever written, The Millionaire Next Door, where Thomas Stanley spent years studying real millionaires and found that most of them live far less flashy than you'd expect. Because, as he puts it, wealth is what you accumulate, not what you spend. The people who look rich are often just the ones spending their money the fastest, while the people who are actually rich are usually the ones that you would never guess. Feeling rich to me is all of the things that I've talked to you about today: a calm home, feeling well rested, having time and energy for the people and things that you love, and not feeling like you're constantly running to keep up. None of that shows up in a photo, but it is genuinely what having money is supposed to buy you in the first place. So why wait until you can afford that designer bag to start feeling that way now? That is exactly why I built this channel, to show you that you don't need to hit some huge number in your bank account to start living well. You can start building that feeling of richness today and let your growing wealth just be the icing on the cake. Getting into a wealthy mindset first is one of the first steps to becoming truly rich. Let me know down in the comments which one of my day-to-day free luxuries you're going to try first, and subscribe to me to see more like this next week. Ciao for now.